TikTok has taught me one thing. White girls really can dance. Like, they throw it back better than me. I'd be like...
On the evening of July 13th, 2024, 37-year-old Stephanie McCray pulled up to the McDonald's drive-thru in Daleville, Alabama. She placed her order and moved forward to the pickup window. But when she reached that window, she didn't ask for extra ketchup or napkins. Instead, she looked directly at the employee and said something that would send chills down anyone's spine. "Call the police." But what could have possibly led to this horrifying moment when a routine fast food stop became a murder scene? Let me take you back to 1987, where Stephanie's story began. Stephanie Marcia Smith McCray was born on May 7, 1987, in Mobile, Alabama. She grew up in Birmingham as the youngest child in a family that valued community and faith. Her parents, Marcellus Leonard Smith and Sundra Sheely Smith, raised her in St. Mark's Episcopal Church, where she was baptized, confirmed, and served as an acolyte. During her school years at Hoover City Schools, Stephanie participated in dance lessons and piano lessons and was part of the Spain Park High School show choir and color guard. She graduated from Spain Park High School in 2005, then went on to attend classes at the University of North Alabama and Jacksonville State University. Throughout her life, Stephanie was known for friends and family as someone with an effervescent personality, always willing to help others. Her nicknames reflected this warmth. Friends called her Steph and Cece. But it was in her professional life where Stephanie's dedication to service truly shined. She worked as a dispatcher at the Dothan Police Department, where she received a Capture Recognition Award in 2011 for her exceptional contributions. Working in law enforcement meant Stephanie understood danger. She knew how to assess threats, how to call for help, how to follow protocols when lives were on the line. This background makes what happened on that July night even more heartbreaking, because when her own life was threatened, all her training couldn't save her. Stephanie's greatest joy, though, was her family. She was a devoted mother to two sons, Marcus Jaden Smith, who was 17 at the time of her death, and Alexander Ethan Mays, who was 14. Anyone who knew Stephanie knew she lived for those boys. She was the loudest cheerleader at their football and basketball games, the kind of mom who showed up to every event, every practice, every moment that mattered. At some point, Stephanie married Ricky McCray, a 45-year-old mechanic who owned a business in Ozark, Alabama. The marriage brought 3 stepdaughters into Stephanie's life: Aaliyah, Andrea, and Destiny McCray. Stephanie embraced them as her bonus daughters, creating what appeared from the outside to be a loving blended family. But beneath the surface, things were far from perfect.
Can you focus on me? Baby, can you focus on me? Hands in the stove, how the faucet's running and I keep looking at you.
Police would later describe the McCrays' relationship as on and off, marked by periods of strain and separation. The couple maintained separate residences, with Stephanie living in Daleville while Ricky stayed in Ozark, about 10 miles apart. While Ricky had no felony convictions, he had several misdemeanors on his record, including a charge for menacing in 2020. Menacing, for those unfamiliar with legal terminology, involves threatening to harm someone in a way that makes them fear for their safety. Though there's no public record linking this charge directly to Stephanie, it is very telling of a man capable of using threats and intimidation. Now let's move to the evening of July 13th, 2024. It's a Saturday night in Daleville, a small town in Alabama near Fort Novosel, formerly known as Fort Rucker. The McDonald's on Daleville Avenue sits just feet away from the military base's main gate, in an area covered with surveillance cameras. Stephanie and Ricky pulled into the drive-thru, with Stephanie behind the wheel and her husband in the passenger seat. What should have been a simple fast food stop was about to turn into a nightmare. As they waited in line, an argument began between the couple. The exact nature of what they were fighting about that night has never been publicly disclosed, but whatever sparked the disagreement, it escalated quickly. The argument was so heated that employees could hear it through the restaurant's intercom system as Stephanie placed her order. When Stephanie pulled up to the pickup window, she did something that showed incredible presence of mind even in a terrifying situation. She looked at the employee and urgently said, "Call the police." Stephanie's training as a police dispatcher kicked in. She knew exactly what to do, exactly what to say. But she also knew, in that horrible moment, that she might not have enough time. The McDonald's employee saw Ricky holding the firearm. In a split second, the worker made a decision that likely saved their own life. They closed the window, turned, and ran inside to safety. And then, just moments later, 3 gunshots rang out.
Stephanie was shot once in the chest and twice in the face, still sitting in the driver's seat of her car at the McDonald's drive-thru window. The time was approximately 10:54 p.m. Ricky immediately fled on foot from the parking lot, leaving his wife's body behind, but he couldn't run from the cameras.
Tonight, we have a breaking news update out of Dale County. A grand jury there indicted a man after police say he and killed his wife in a McDonald's drive-thru. News 4's Dayside anchor Bayla Walker is in our newsroom now. So, Bayla, what can you tell us about this case tonight?
Yeah, Kinsley, that man is Ricky McCray. Court documents filed earlier this month show an 18-person jury charged him with killing his wife. The happened at the Daleville McDonald's back in July. The McDonald's only feet away from the Fort Novacell gate. Police say when Ricky and his wife got to the window, she told employees working that her husband had a gun and to call the police. Police managed to get security video from the restaurant, and it clearly showed McCray was their suspect. As for now, he's still being held in the Dale County Jail.
Bayla Walker, thank you. His wife's name was Stephanie McCray. She was a mother, and she was 37 years old.
Remember what I told you about the location of this McDonald's? It sits right next to Fort Novacell's main gate, an area covered with military security cameras. Surveillance footage from the restaurant and nearby businesses captured everything: the car in the drive-thru, the argument, the shooting, and most importantly, Ricky fleeing the scene. The video showed his vehicle leaving the area shortly after the shooting, heading toward Ozark. The employees immediately called 911 to the scene and rushed Stephanie to the hospital. Daleville Police Chief John Crawford immediately launched an investigation, working alongside the Ozark Police Department and the Dale County Sheriff's Office. 3 McDonald's employees who witnessed parts of the horrifying incident gave statements to police, and their accounts aligned perfectly with what the surveillance footage showed. Police recovered shell casings at the scene, physical evidence of the 3 shots that ended Stephanie's life. But despite executing search warrants on Ricky's home and vehicles, investigators never recovered the murder weapon. And here's a detail that makes this case even more bizarre. Ricky actually went to the hospital to check on Stephanie after the shooting, before her death was officially pronounced. Investigators noted this visit, though they didn't consider it exculpatory in any way. Within 2 to 3 days of reviewing witness statements and surveillance footage, police identified Ricky McCray as their prime suspect. On July 18, 2024, 5 days after Stephanie's murder, Ricky McCray was arrested at his home in Ozark. He was charged with 1 count of murder under Alabama law.
A breaking news update out of Dale County tonight. The suspect in a outside the McDonald's in Daleville is now in jail. 45-year-old Ricky McCray was arrested this afternoon. Police say he and killed his wife last weekend while she was at the drive-thru window. We do not know why he may have killed her. His wife, Stephanie, was 37 years old.
The arrest came without incident, though Ricky would later claim during a bond hearing that he had been at his Ozark home most of the day on July 13th. Surveillance footage directly contradicted this claim, showing his vehicle near the scene of the crime. The legal proceedings moved forward quickly, and on July 25, 2024, a bond hearing was held before Judge Stanley Garner in Dale County Circuit Court. During this hearing, investigators testified about the evidence they had gathered: the witness observations, the surveillance video, the shell casings, all of it pointing unmistakably to Ricky's guilt. Ricky's defense argued for his release on bond. His attorneys pointed out that he owned his home in Ozark for over 14 years, that he ran a mechanic business, that he had stable ties to the community. They suggested he would reliably appear for court dates and pose no flight risk. The state disagreed vehemently, with prosecutors emphasizing the brazen nature of the criminal who fled the crime scene after shooting his wife. Judge Garner sided with the prosecution and denied bond. In late September 2024, an 18-person grand jury reviewed the evidence and formally indicted Ricky McCrae on one count of murder. This indictment moved the case from the preliminary stages into the trial phase. Court documents were filed in early October 2024, officially advancing the prosecution. As of today, more than a year and a half after Stephanie's murder, there has been no trial date set, no verdict rendered, no further public updates on the case. Ricky McCrae remains in Dale County Jail without bond, waiting for a trial that may still be months or even years away. This delay isn't unusual in murder cases, particularly in Alabama's court system. Complex cases require extensive discovery periods, where both prosecution and defense review evidence, file motions, interview witnesses, and prepare their strategies. Forensic analysis takes time, court calendars get backlogged, and in a murder case where the stakes are a potential life sentence, both sides want to ensure they're fully prepared. Stephanie's funeral services were held on July 20, 2024, at Destiny Church in Dothan, following a visitation at Unity Family Funeral Home. The community came together to mourn a woman who had given so much to others throughout her life. Over 484 virtual candles were lit on her gun violence memorial page, each one representing someone who was touched by her story, who mourned her loss, who recognized the tragedy of a life cut short by domestic violence. Stephanie's friends described her as full of life, love, and energy, someone who could say or do the unexpected in the best possible way. One friend recalled a moment during a faith walk in Enterprise, Alabama, where Stephanie witnessed what she described as a miracle, an experience that deepened her already strong faith. Her involvement in her church, her dedication to her community, her career in public service, all of it spoke to a person who believed in helping others, in making the world a better place.
And now she's gone, killed in one of the most mundane settings imaginable, a McDonald's drive-thru on a Saturday night. This case forces us to confront some uncomfortable truths about domestic violence in America. And Stephanie's story isn't an isolated incident. In fact, her death is closely similar to another horrifying case that occurred just 5 years earlier in another McDonald's location. On January 23, 2019, in South Point, Ohio, a woman named Belinda Adkins shot and killed her ex-husband Joshua Jones in a McDonald's parking lot. Jones, who was 39 years old, had arranged to meet Adkins at the McDonald's for a custody exchange of their 9-year-old daughter. Just 1 week earlier, a judge had awarded primary custody of the child to Jones, a decision that left Adkins, then 41, distraught and desperate. When she arrived at the McDonald's that afternoon around 4:30 p.m., she didn't bring their daughter. Instead, she brought a gun. Witnesses reported hearing an argument escalate rapidly in the parking lot, followed by gunshots. Adkins shot Jones 5 times at close range, leaving him lying near the front of the parking lot. He was rushed to Cabell Huntington Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. And here's one of the most disturbing details. Adkins admitted to authorities that she recorded the entire shooting on her phone, essentially documenting her own act of murder. After killing Jones, Adkins fled in her white 2008 Chevrolet Malibu. The Lawrence County Sheriff's Office, led by Sheriff Jeff Lawless, immediately launched a massive search, issuing a be-on-the-lookout alert for her vehicle. 2 days later, on January 25, 2019, Adkins surrendered at a home on Cedar Street in Burlington. She contacted a resident to call police and complied peacefully when officers arrived, kneeling with her hands interlocked.
The woman accused of gunning down her ex-husband in a parking lot was in court again for a pretrial hearing this morning.
Our own Shannon Litton was there in Lawrence County, Ohio with the latest. Shannon, what was the hearing like?
Jack and Marilee, good afternoon. Once again, the front row of the courtroom was filled with the family of Josh Jones, the man deputies say was shot and by Belinda Atkins at a McDonald's parking lot last month in South Point. And now, today a preliminary hearing took place where we got to hear from Detective Jason Newman of the Lawrence County Sheriff's Office. According to Newman's testimony, Atkins is said to have fired one shot at Josh Jones, which caused him to collapse by his vehicle. She then calmly walked over to him and shot down at him 4 more times before calmly walking back to her car and driving away toward Huntington. In his testimony, Detective Newman said Atkins' phone was pinged multiple times so they could try to find a location for her. They say her cell phone was pinged through several parts of South Point, Burlington, Ironton, and even Wayne County. Detective Newman said that deputies did recover a gun box but have not yet recovered the gun they believe was used in the shooting. Perhaps the most revealing detail in the case today was what Atkins did and said moments before her arrest. This, according to Detective Newman. He said, and I quote, "When we were pulling up and she seen my vehicle, it's a little bit marked, it has a sheriff on it. When she seen it, she actually dropped to her knees and put her hands on her head. She actually made a statement because we asked why she was getting on her knees, and she said, quote, because of what I've done, I didn't want to be end quote. Now, this case will be taken up by a grand jury who will then determine whether or not to serve an indictment. Stay with 13 News for the latest on this case, on air and online on our website, WOWKTV.com. For now, they're reporting live in Chesapeake. I'm Shannon Litton, 13 News, working for you.
Her admission, combined with the video she had recorded on her own phone, provided overwhelming evidence of her guilt. Atkins was initially charged with first-degree murder and held on a $1 million bond. After pleading not guilty at her arraignment on January 28, 2019, she was indicted by a grand jury on February 27th. The case proceeded toward trial, but on December 16, 2019, the day her trial was scheduled to begin, Atkins changed her plea to guilty for aggravated murder. She was sentenced immediately to life in prison with parole eligibility after 23 years. Prosecutors emphasized that she had come to the custody exchange armed, without their daughter, clearly intending to harm Jones. When someone is determined to harm their partner or ex-partner, when rage and desperation override rational thought, location becomes secondary. The presence of witnesses doesn't deter violence. Security cameras don't prevent murders. Public spaces don't guarantee safety when you're dealing with someone who has reached a breaking point. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, intimate partner violence results in over 1,000 homicides annually in the United States, with women far more likely to be victims than men. Firearms are involved in the majority of these deaths, and increasingly, these murders are occurring in public places where victims believed they would be safe. Alabama, where Stephanie lived and died, consistently ranks among the states with the highest rates of women killed by men in domestic violence situations. The state's gun laws, which allow for relatively easy access to firearms, combined with insufficient resources for domestic violence intervention and prevention, create a perfect storm for tragedies like Stephanie's. The warning signs were there in both cases. Atkins was distraught over losing custody, a high-risk situation that family courts and social workers recognize as potentially dangerous. Ricky and Stephanie had an on-and-off relationship, maintained separate homes, and Ricky had a prior misdemeanor conviction for menacing. These are red flags that domestic violence experts train people to recognize. But here's the cruel reality. Even when we recognize the warning signs, even when victims try to protect themselves by living separately or meeting in public places, even when they call for help like Stephanie did, it's often not enough. The system designed to protect victims of domestic violence is riddled with gaps that determined perpetrators can exploit. That's the harsh truth that makes cases like this so difficult to process. Stephanie wasn't naive about danger. She wasn't someone who failed to recognize the threat. She was a woman with law enforcement training who understood exactly how serious her situation was and who tried desperately to save her own life. But the time between recognizing the danger and the bullets being fired was simply too short for help to arrive. The same can be said for Joshua Jones in Ohio. He was meeting his ex-wife in a public place during daylight hours for a routine custody exchange. He had no reason to believe that day would be any different from previous exchanges. He couldn't have known that Atkins would arrive armed and intent on killing him. And even if he had suspected something, what could he have done? Refused to meet for the custody exchange? Called police preemptively based on nothing but a bad feeling? Let me know what you think in the comments section. Also, click on one of the cards on your screen to see more videos like this.